so this is my WildFit story. And the one you're about to hear is the long version. It's not the short one, it's long. And so this is the long story as to why I decided and I personally chose to do WildFit. Where to begin? So it was January of 2017 and my mom was in Germany, and the one promise I had made to her before she left was that I would take my Opa for dinner on New Year's Eve. And well, I guess it wasn't quite January yet because we're talking December 31st. Anyway, so New Year's Eve came and I took my Opa out for dinner to his favorite place, which was Denny's, and always has been. Pretty funny. He only has the same thing every single time. Eggs, maybe some hash browns if you're lucky, but eggs, toast, and sometimes bacon, maybe on the wild side, even ham, you know? So I took him to Denny's for New Year's Eve with my sister and my brother-in-law. And then afterwards, I took him back home. So now at the time, he was living in independent living, a part of the residential care home. So he had like nurses and people who could come check on him, or he was safe. People could come call him. And so I drove him back to his home, his apartment where he was living, and he had no idea where he was or why he was there. It's one of those moments that really gets you and hit home. It stays with you forever. So we're sitting in my mom's vehicle because it was snowing a lot, so I drove hers and he likes it better. And he had no idea why I was taking him to this place. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know where he was or why he was there. And so I had to sit and explain to him. About a month ago, we moved you into your apartment, which you absolutely love, and we've made it feel like home for you, and you have people come and check on you every now and then. And then he's like, well, where's my house? Why am I not in my house? Well, your house was getting too big for you. You needed to be someplace safe that, you know, if we came to check on you or if we couldn't one day, we know you'd be okay. It was hard. It was a hard explanation and a hard time to sit there and tell him that you're too old to be living on your own, or explain how you do not have the brain capacity anymore to be able to cook by yourself. Like, we can't leave you in your house anymore for fear if you make eggs that you leave the stove on and burn it down. So how do you explain that to someone who's just come back to the real world, actually is physically present again once? So in the end, I told him, well, let's go look at your apartment. You know, let's go check it out and see if you remember, you know, where you've been for the last month. We go in, no idea. Absolutely no idea where we are. So we just keep going, just keep walking along, and we find his apartment, which we had put a sign up for his name, so he's kind of like, okay. We go inside, and he still does not know. All of his furniture is there, so he's kind of like, huh. So then we sit down, and I'm like, would you like to sit down and talk a little bit, maybe have some coffee or tea, and I can explain or answer whatever questions you have, because at this point, what else do you do? So we sit down, we have tea, and he asks me, well, like, when did I move here? How long have I been living here? And I'm like, well, we moved you here in the beginning of December, kind of end of November, and you've been living here now for a month, almost over a month. And then he's like, well, who moved me in? How did I get here? How did all my stuff get here? And I'm like, well, Mom, Calvin, and Uncle Ingo, they all came and they moved your stuff into the apartment, and that's how it all got here. He's like, well, where was I? You were here. You were with us. I don't remember that. I know. It's sometimes we just forget things, and that's just what happens. Well, where do you go from here? So we keep talking, and the love of his life, Naomi, had passed away 11 years ago. And so we get on to that. So here he goes. So where's Omi? What do you mean? Well, wasn't she just going to get me some groceries? Like, she was just here. No, but she's been gone for 11 years. What? Really? No, that can't be right. Yeah, Opa, she passed away when I was 7, and she's good. She's good where she is. Oh. Right. Okay. But I thought she was just here. No, she wasn't just here. Maybe my mom was. Sylvia, your daughter, looks a lot like Omi and sounds a lot like her. Oh yeah. Where is Sylvia? She's in Germany right now. She's going to see the house over there. It's good. She's with Calvin. They're on a little trip. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. So then we get on to where they're going, what they're doing. All is good. And then it just comes back to the fact that he has no clue where he is or why he's there. And you know what? I'm just extremely thankful that at that time and in that moment, he still remembered who I was. So I was able to sit there with him, to let him cry about the fact that the love of his life is gone. He's now not in his home anymore. He's living in an apartment. And that we're here for him, but he's kind of still on his own, right? So in the end, we sit and talked, and we had just gone for dinner, right? But of course, doesn't remember that either. So I walked him down to dinner because at the home that they make dinner for them, especially on New Year's. So they were having a special New Year's Eve dinner. So I walked him down there, arm in arm, down we went, and it was all good. I sat him down, and he's like, so what are you doing tonight? I'm like, well, it's New Year's Eve, so I'm gonna go visit with some friends. He's like, oh, well, that will be good. And so I explained to him that, we're going to dinner and it'll all be good. And then I walked him to his table, sat him down, made sure it was all good, and left. That is the hardest and strongest memory that I still have of my Opa. And I honestly think it was the last time he was ever truly present on this earth. And if you haven't figured out yet, Opa suffered from Alzheimer's quite severely. He had been suffering for it for about 4 years, I think, by that time. Not knowing where he was, what he was doing, or repeating the same tasks, all that kind of stuff. But now, the hard part is he also suffered from type 2 diabetes. And with his type 2 diabetes, we could never get it level. He lived at about 20 in his sugar levels, when really he should have always been below 8. And so he was constantly on a sugar high, but he was such a happy person when he was, and functioned totally normal at 20. So we left it. He had a hard time his last few years, because I think for the last 3 years of his life, we were excited when he was down at 10. Then he'd get back up to 20. Some days I would go and I would see him, and we would poke his finger, and then we would test him, and he'd be so high, it wouldn't even read. It wouldn't even read. It wouldn't even tell you how high he was. At that point, he should have been in a sugar coma, but he wasn't. Don't know how, don't know why. That's just how he lived, and that's how he was. So my Opa was my hero while I was growing up. He was the father figure in my life for a long time, and he was the role model, the one who would do whatever you needed when you needed it. I am forever thankful that he never forgot us before he passed away, and that he always knew who he was and he never lost his sense of humor. I learned a few things in between. I had learned about Alzheimer's being a nursing student, which is what I was at the time. I was working in residential care, and we were working with a lot of patients that were way worse than he was, that didn't know their names, couldn't tell you their family members, couldn't tell you where they were from or who they were married to. And I learned really fast that that is not how I want it to be when I'm 80. So I started doing research and learning some different things, and I actually figured out that researchers are now calling Alzheimer's the third diabetes, because the amount of sugar you eat correlates to your brain function. And here I am thinking about how much sugar I eat. I eat a lot. I eat a lot of sugar. So here I am. I figured out a reason, or a way to prevent Alzheimer's, or to prevent being like that at 80, 85. And well, let me tell you, from my diet and the way I was eating, I was going to be there at 50. I wasn't going to be there at 80. I would be one of those with early onset Alzheimer's from the amount of sugar I was having daily. If that correlation is true, that was my future. That's what I was looking at. So I had to stop, and I had to think. I had to figure out, what am I going to do now? So I just learned this information, and the research that sparked me was from Headstrong, the book written by Dave Asprey, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll try the bulletproof diet. Well, there's a big problem with that. I cannot have coffee. The bulletproof diet is amazing, and it's really cool, but I cannot drink caffeine. It makes me sick. It makes my heart race. It makes my stomach upset. I get the shakes. I get everything from coffee. So that diet was out, no matter how much I wanted to try it, because it was a sugar-free kind of living lifestyle. I couldn't do it. So I kept researching and kept doing things. So I ended up at Mindvalley in the summer of 2018. After my Opa had passed away, and I had done all this research and learned all this stuff, and knew that I needed to change my lifestyle, or I was going to go down a similar path. I just didn't know how to change it or how to prevent that. So I was at one of the talks, and I believe it was a fireside chat in the end, and Eric Amides was talking with Vishen Lakhiani, and if you don't know who those two are, you need to. They're very inspirational, and they were talking about WildFit. The premise behind it, the reasons for it, and then they had people in the crowd stand up and share what WildFit did for them. And it blew me away. It was like, wow. And in the Mindvalley community, WildFit is very well known because Mindvalley offers a quest to do WildFit. I knew though that I needed help, and that I needed a coach. I needed someone to do it with me one-on-one, to hold my hand and tell me that it would be okay, and that I can do it. I can achieve this lifestyle that I want. So later at Mindvalley, I met Catherine, who's a good friend of mine, and she was becoming a WildFit coach. So after her amazing story, which is another one that's like, whoa, it really does transform lives. My two friends and I agreed to be in her practice group, and so we did. So then after Mindvalley in the summer of 2018, we started WildFit, and I was oh so excited. My why was really strong. If you listened to the story before, I didn't want to have to go through memory loss or get type 2 diabetes or any of that. Who would want it? I sure didn't. So I was going to do everything in my power to prevent it. And that's what WildFit was giving me, a way to prevent something that is caused through your diet. Now, if you look at what I was eating in July of 2017, when I was at Mindvalley, I found a place that made homemade gelato. Oh, and it was delicious. And I went there every single day. Every single day. I went and had a gelato. Different flavors, different kinds. Definitely was not the greatest for my bank account, but oh, it was wonderful. My health and well-being, right? No. But that's what I told myself. And so here comes August. We're gonna start the WildFit challenge with Catherine. And at the time, I was working in construction. I was running machinery, and the machine that I was running, I had to operate for 12 hours straight, constantly. The machine was not stop running unless an emergency or it broke down. You had to run that machine. And so I was running equipment for 12 hours a day, and I had to drive an hour there, an hour back, and be at work a half an hour before work, and you know, you stay a little bit later to talk to your crew. So I was working 14, sometimes 15-hour days from the time I left to the time I got back home. How do you change your lifestyle when you're living literally the hardest lifestyle? Did I forget to mention, I was working 4 days on, 4 off, and then 4 nights, 4 off. Now for me, night shift, I am not a night owl. I will go to bed at 9 and be thrilled to wake up at 5 a.m. Fine by me. Now you're telling me that I need to stay up all night without sugar? What? Okay, but I have this mission, I have this reason, I know I want to do this. And well, I did it. At the end of WildFit, I was able to do a night shift with no sugar or caffeine, because once we got rid of the sugar, I had to have something else to keep me awake. So I actually started drinking coffee, which I know makes me sick, but there was a few nights that I had to because I had no choice. And that's just what happens sometimes. I eventually got to the point where I'd only pack black tea or like an Earl Grey tea or something in case of an emergency if I could not stay awake or function, because when you're running equipment, you gotta be alert, because that's a big piece of equipment and it can do a lot of damage if you fall asleep running it. It's not what you want. So I succeeded. I got through WildFit and I got to the other side, and I was able to have no sugar. I went with no sugar for over a month. And by no sugar, I mean literally no sugar. Like no fruit. No chocolate before I walked out the door. That was my favorite thing. None. I went through Halloween and I didn't eat the box of candy that I handed to the kids. That was the first. How do you do that? But I did it. I don't know how. Actually, I do know how. It was through WildFit, and I am forever grateful for it because, whoa. Yeah, I didn't believe I could do it. WildFit also, crazy enough, my goal was not weight loss, but I lost 10 pounds and a running total of 5 inches, and I'm still losing weight. Even after going through Christmas, I weighed myself again and I was down another 3 pounds. So that blows my mind. That blows me away. WildFit gave me increased confidence in myself, which is probably one of the biggest things. And it got me through some challenges and taught me some really good lessons. One of the biggest challenges while I was on WildFit was drinking more water, which I know is good for me. Water is something your body's made out of, so you gotta replenish your stores. You gotta make sure you have it. But while I was working, I normally would restrict my water because we had to keep the equipment running for 12 hours, and there was no bathroom. Yeah, there's no bathroom in equipment, and we're on a dam. There's a bathroom like 20 minutes away if you go all the way down to the bottom, or there's some outhouses around if you get someone to drive you there, but there's no bathrooms. So I had to solve that issue, and that was something else, but you know, everything's an experience. And the other big challenge that I had to work through was packing, meal prepping, actually learning how to cook, and have food ready for those 14-hour days to make sure that I didn't go hungry, because one of the best things on WildFit is you never need to be hungry. You can eat all you want as long as you're eating the right stuff. And yeah, I got through it. I got to the other side, and now I can't imagine my life without living WildFit. And now I have a way to prevent everything that I want to prevent. I can actually, for once, see myself living healthier longer, because I am preventing myself from getting disease, from getting Alzheimer's, from making my pancreas stop working and making me insulin resistant. I am preventing myself from getting sick from the amount of veggies and greens I'm eating and how I eat, and it's revolutionary. So that's my WildFit story, and that encompasses my why a little bit more than my why I'm doing WildFit video, and that's because it's hard to explain why you're doing something when you had to live through it and you had to experience it. And I don't want my grandkids or my family to have to deal with the burden of me not knowing who they are. And I learned that at a very young age, and that's just the mission that I'm on, is to be the healthiest and happiest the longest I can be. Alright, so that is my long version of my WildFit story, and I am really thrilled if you got all the way through it. So thank you for watching.